You know, there's really nothing like the thrill of getting to film something twice. Hi, welcome back to whatever it is I'm doing here. Not really sure. I'm also not 100% sure what my hair is doing. It's got a mind of its own. It's got its own texture called Huh? Before I get started, this next installment of whatever, I just wanted to say thank you for the support for yesterday's video. Yesterday? Was it yesterday? I think it was like 3 days ago. I want to thank you for support for my last video. There were a lot of nice comments, a lot more nice comments than I thought there were going to be, especially when you post anything about Gabby Hanna. I know there's a lot of controversy there, and you know, obviously that's what this series is about. That's what this series is about, essentially. I've had a YouTube channel forever. I've had a YouTube channel since 2006, 2007. Not this one, it was another one. It exists. I don't have the password anymore. So it's always been really weird for me when people I know or like kind of know watch these. I don't know if it's because I hate myself or if I don't know. I'm happy people are watching. That's nice. But it always makes me a little nervous. So, but I'm very grateful that you're here, if you still are. If you're not, you can't hear me. So I filmed this yesterday already. And this morning, while I was going to export this video, it spontaneously fucking combusted. The funniest thing is I added in a little bit to clarify my point because I felt like I was coming off really, for lack of a better word, I just honestly, there are some things in the situation that I want to talk about, and I think I can do that without acting like a total bitch. So I saw it as a blessing in disguise and also a pain in the ass because I spent a really long time editing yesterday's video. So this one won't have all the dumbass bells and whistles. Bells and whistles. First of all, I'm 70. Second of all, there were no bells and whistles. It was just... Anyway, today we're going to focus a little bit more on the toxic stand portion. There's going to be a lot of sort of heavier stuff. I'm only going to touch on it briefly because I felt like the first time I filmed this, I touched on it too much, and I really kind of, to drive my point home is where I kind of went. So, let's not do that. For anyone who is triggered by conversations about sexual assault or suicide, there's not going to be any detail. It's not going to be graphic. It's really going to be brief, but if that is something that triggers you, please click off this video. I would rather lose your view than you lose your sanity over this. The first stop on our trip is going to be the part that involves the trigger warning. This is a topic that I have been reticent to speak about because I feel like it's such a sensitive topic, and I feel like certain words pull certain triggers and cause people to stop listening to what you're actually saying and putting implication behind what you're saying without actually hearing the thing you've just said. Did that make sense? Who cares? Let's move on. Before I get into the specifics, I really want to emphasize that all pain, suffering, trauma, and aftermath of all of that, all of those things are valid. And all of those things are valid for everybody across the board. And this includes Gabby Hanna. And I want to be very explicitly, unmistakably clear that I am in no way attempting to illegitimize or delegitimize. It was so good the first time. Is that how that word sounds? I am not trying to say that her pain is invalid and she's never allowed to talk about it. But in November, while she was avoiding the Jessie Smiles situation, she wasn't bringing any sort of clarity to the conversation. She wasn't bringing any sort of conversation to the conversation. From her side account, tweeted this. But that was after, from her main account, she had tweeted this. Listen, I have no problem if you want to talk about suicide prevention, suicide in general, your experiences with suicide, experiences with being suicidal, with depression, anxiety, mental health in general, right? I mean, she sort of totes herself around as like this mental health advocate because she's experienced so much, and she you know, she talks about how she has CPTSD, etc. And that's fine, that's valid. What's not making sense for me, what's not gelling, and where red flags come up for me is the fact that this comes up. You're in the middle of pretty heavy drama that really requires you to speak about the situation. No matter what your opinion is on it, speaking on it, whether you're saying these claims are false, I never said this never happened, regardless of the truth, the fact that nothing is being said and only one side of the story is being given, people are allowed to draw their own conclusions. For me, my own conclusion was that you're immature and not addressing a controversy that is pretty heavy and needs to be spoken about. And when I say needs to be spoken about, and if I say that at any point while I'm still talking about this whole sort of weaponizing your trauma thing, I don't mean that it needs to be spoken about at length regarding your situation. You do not need to give anybody any details about an assault or a suicide attempt or anything like that. You do not have to go into detail. You can still have the conversation if that's what you really wanted to do. Now, because there were no other mentions of suicide or here's some links to some suicide hotlines or anything like that, I'm led to believe that this was a choice to deflect from the fact that she was in the middle of pretty heated, heavy drama and wanted the conversation to stop. With the information I had and with following her on social media and her lack of responsibility, accountability, acknowledgement in general, how can I deduce that that is a sincere moment in time that she just wanted to share? This, as a standalone issue, would be distasteful, pretty abhorrent, but I was fine to walk away. However, this summer, I opted to give Gabby the benefit of the doubt when she posted her video, which turned out to be sort of an exposed video. I believe the video itself is called Jessie Smiles, Trisha Paytas, Alex James, and Beyonce. Because of course it is. I'm not going to get into that video and what was said in that video, except the fact that she did say that she would never publicly bash Jessie and then proceeded to call her a predator this summer. Anyway, the sort of rape apologist ordeal came back into play, and Gabby was, you know, in the middle of clearly a mental health crisis that she has not apologized for lashing out at anyone during. However, in the midst of this, she revealed that she herself is a rape survivor, which is a well and good conversation to have when you're ready. Not, again, while you're in the middle of drama, heavy drama, to make the conversation stop. I understand, again, want to be clear, 100% believe her about both situations, 100% can empathize and sympathize. You do the math on which one I can do which with. While you're taking this opportunity to tell your millions of followers that you're a rape survivor, which is fine. Again, a conversation you're more than welcome to have. I'm not the gatekeeper. I'm not the one to tell you when and where to talk about things that have happened to you, okay? All I'm saying is it looks really sus when it's always in the middle of a big dramatic episode. I also didn't care for the fact that she then proceeded to blame everybody else for twisting her arm, for essentially forcing her to reveal that she was a victim of sexual assault. And to that I say,
no.
The majority of us who are not like, no, kill yourself, you know, those of us who have valid criticisms, those of us who have something to say, those of us who were involved in the situation at that time, we're all adults. Like, we're all grown adults, right? I think I can speak for most of us when I say we would have rather you kept that private and told
I just spit.
the world when you were ready, because you can disagree with someone's behavior and still want the best for them.
Similarly,
I'm just pointing this out. This isn't an accusation or even my firm stance on anything, but just to point it out, you can be a rape survivor and a rape apologist at the same time. Those things are not mutually exclusive. As an example, you can be a victim of abuse and then abuse someone down the line. Like, that's something that can happen. Just because you experience something doesn't mean you're not capable of also putting that out, if that makes sense. I don't know if I put that example exactly how I wanted, but I did say words. In that same vein, you can experience a trauma and use it as a weapon. I don't think I'm outrageous in saying that. This was so much longer than I wanted it to be. I really didn't want to talk about this for that long, but I have been wanting to talk about this for so long that it's been driving me nuts. At the end of the day, the timing on these reveals of trauma is sus to me. I mean, it just is. I'm sorry. Again, not trying to invalidate anything that happened to anybody, any feelings anyone has. All feelings, all emotions, all pain, all trauma, all of the aftermath, incredibly valid. And it takes a long time to heal. I imagine that a lot of this is playing into the fact that Gabby does find herself in these dramatic situations and that this is how she handles it. But similarly, your mental health is not an excuse for shit behavior, and that's a fact. Like, sometimes it's the cause, but it's not an excuse. You don't get a free pass because you have mental health issues. Most of us have mental health issues. So just some food for thought there. I really talked about that way longer than I wanted to. Next up on the flaming clown car to hell, a toxic stan encounter from the other day, and I really want to share this with you because I feel like this encapsulates all of the things that I have wanted to point out and say about Gabby stans. Obviously there have been worse ones, there have been better ones, there have been other ones. This one happened the other day. I will be using screenshots, but I will be blurring out their name. Let's call them
Dick.
So Dick hopped into my mentions a couple days ago when I was busy pointing out the hypocrisy of someone's statement where the person above them had referred to Gabby's drama with Brian Lee as the rice gum lie. The person responding to that felt offended by her calling it the rice gum lie, and I pointed out that that was incredibly hypocritical from someone who referred to Jesse Smiles' sexual assault as rape drama. This person then hopped into my mentions, Dick hopped into my mentions, and asked for proof of that. So I gave Dick the proof. And you know what Dick did? You guessed it, immediately denied that it was true and made excuses on Gabby's behalf.
Color me surprised.
Never could have seen it coming. I went on to explain exactly what I had just explained to you, that I spent way too long explaining, about weaponizing trauma. And this person proceeded to hurl a dumpster fire of insults at me, telling me that I was gross, that I was a terrible person. They got the gold medal for mental gymnastics and certainly attempted to add implication to my words that simply was not there. All very familiar Gabby and Gabby stan tactics.
Psychological warfare.
At this point, several of us on Twitter were involved in this conversation, back and forth. I don't know if they'd call it conversation, more like a back and forth. And I must say, Gabby, Dick absolutely held their own. If holding your own translates to insulting people, making statements on a stranger's behalf, and blindly accusing someone of sexual assault, they really held their own. Which leads me to my next question.
Is this stan Gabby?
In my opinion, not a fact, opinion, Yeah, I think it is Gabby. A lot of the red flags were there. The way I've heard about the way she speaks, how quickly she is able to throw out 9 million texts with 9 million overbearing, psychologically confusing words. But I gotta be honest, if it isn't Gabby, that is more frightening, because that means that these kids are really, really like taking her verbiage, her manipulation tactics, and every word she says as gospel, and spewing it back out into anybody who has anything remotely critical to say. And that's horrifying. Like, that is a cult. To be clear, I'm not accusing Gabby Hanna of starting a cult, but there's a very, very strong cult-like mentality in her stand-up, and it's really jarring. Even if all that other stuff didn't exist, I would feel like this is Gabby because of the verbiage used. Dick accused me of gaslighting incorrectly. Also followed it up by using the words slander and defamatory incorrectly. What can we deduce about the influence that Gabby has and how she uses it? To be honest with you, I don't see any positive influence at all. I see someone who is comfortable not apologizing when they're wrong, not admitting when they're wrong, ignoring their problems, throwing around psychological terminology that for someone with a psychology degree she gets wrong an awful lot. I just don't think any of it's good. I think it's all bad. And finally, for a taste of delicious irony or hypocrisy, I mean, I could kind of go both ways. I scoped out Dick's Twitter account before they blocked me, just to see what else was going on, you know? You gotta know who you're dealing with. And I found this gem. Dick making a point about how important it is to call out shitty behavior in the communities you belong in. And unfortunately, the irony and hypocrisy, this level of absolute lack of self-awareness is so funny that I laughed and I cried because I was laughing so fucking hard. I have nothing more to say. That is it for today's video. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, or don't if you don't want to, because it's whatever. Really quickly, I hate the color of these walls. They're getting painted soon. And I just noticed all the shadowing. So I'm sorry if shadows bother you, because I'm using natural light, because I'm cheap. I can afford the sun. We'll see you in the next one.